Welcome back to Shredder's Revenge, dudes! Alright, so let's look at Splinter's Dojo. Basically, all the trophies / achievements can actually be consulted in the Turtle Lair. There's a lot of clever little achievements that have a lot of cool stuff like opening a mutagen, finally get piped Piper. See? When you...
I do dig how a lot of games recently have been adding in their own little built-in achievement mechanics.
Okay. You'll also notice in the corner Donnie playing one of the Game Boy games.
Cute.
Okay. It's like I said before. I'm not too familiar with 80s Turtles, but I'm pretty sure there wasn't an episode where the Turtles played the flute and danced the Foot Clan into their cave and trapped them all in there.
It's a reference to the Rat King, Dibs, because in the 80s show, the Rat King has a pipe that he uses to summon his rats. It's a direct reference to the Piper.
Jova, I haven't been watching modern Star Trek lately, and even I know about the recent existence of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, the musical episode. I'm sure I would have noticed
Bebop, no!
That happened. Involving the Pied Piper.
Yeah.
So basically that's your way of saying that you're a super mega fan.
You also notice that just like in the 80s show, that the foot soldiers are robots, just like they were in the 80s show for censorship reasons.
Is this, I take it
human-like.
But you know one thing the European version of this game is missing, Pedro? For that full...
Yeah, Hero Turtles.
Turtles nostalgia, call it Hero Turtles.
Well, if I remember correctly, hasn't TMNT in Europe stopped doing that for a long time now at this point?
We've not done the whole hero stick since the 2003 series.
So yeah, at this point it's irrelevant. So.
I love how that endured up to the 2003 series. Like, did they change the theme song too?
Probably. I mean, they did it for the 80s show, so...
They for the 80s one, they re-recorded the song and just substituted the lyrics for Hero, although, since the 2003 show, we just kept the name as is.
Okay, again, when you say as of the 2003 show, do you mean that the 2003 show did it, or that was where it stopped?
That was where it stopped.
Okay, because, yeah, that's actually what I was asking. Oh, hey, Attila.
It was probably, knowing Peter Laird, I wouldn't be surprised if it was some kind of demand from him.
Yeah, Europe, stop with this Hero Turtle shit.
Well, don't you see, ninjas can't be heroes, and we wouldn't want our kids to emulate people who might be bad, so we need to make it extra clear that they're the good guys.
I'm sure, I'm sure Peter Laird didn't say it exactly like that, but this is the guy that probably seethes with rage whenever someone even mentions Venus de Milo.
Okay, to be fair to Peter Laird, Deji, hasn't he at the very least calmed down in recent years, at least?
Well,
yeah. Okay.
I mean, he's not been that active anyway, so.
I mean, he's been enjoying his life Potter.
Yeah, and Kevin Eastman is much more chill about the whole thing. Remember, he even recently did the cover artwork for the Cowabunga collection. So.
Wait, wasn't Eastman the main guy?
I believe he's still. Yeah, he is still involved with IDW too.
Yeah.
Wasn't Eastman more involved with the 80s show anyway?
Okay, if I remember correctly, in the original comics, Jova, it's kind of like Steve Ditko and Stan Lee with Spider-Man. Like Kevin Eastman did the art, Peter Laird did the writing. Is that correct, Dej?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's the whole thing where there's an artist and a writer, the usual thing for Western comics.
But they also kind of had a falling out.
Oh, did they?
Oh dear.
But they've reunited recently, and that's basically how we got the last Ronin, because that was them coming together thanks to IDW, and it was also written by IDW writer Tom Waltz.
I love how one of Casey's attacks is him using a golf club instead of a hockey stick.
There is a documentary that has Kevin and Peter together, and they're in their old office, and it's really emotional because you can see them break down crying, thinking about the good times. Like, damn.
I will say this: One thing that's remarkable about the 80s show is that, again, despite the fact that even when the original creators hated it, you can tell that the 80s show has influenced the brand even to the point of the current comics as of nowadays.
Well, remember the thing, like we've said before, the thing about the original 80s comics before the TMNT 80s show came out is that there were some things that, in hindsight, like for example, if I remember correctly,
like giving all the turtles the same color bandana.
That, and if I remember correctly, they all basically had very little distinct characteristics between each other. The whole Leonardo leads, Donatello does machines, Raphael is cool but rude, Michelangelo is a party dude thing. That was actually the 80s show that came up with that. With some influences from the comics, to be fair, like Deji told us in the previous playthrough. Apparently, Donnie did express some interest in machines in the comics as well, but yeah, it didn't become as pronounced as it is nowadays until the 80s show, yes.
You know, the ironic thing is, like, well, one could be forgiven for thinking that the 2003 series also took inspiration from the 80s show. Well, even though I'm sure that hearing so would put Laird into a coma, but
yeah, that's one of the big reasons. Well, I mean, I haven't seen the show in years. I'm planning on actually rewatching with Dej in the near future, but if I remember correctly, because I watched the 2003 show, it's just that, it's been years at this point, so if I remember correctly, yeah, they still retain the fact that Leonardo's the leader, Michelangelo's the party dude, and Donnie does machines. Obviously they're not as comedic as they were in the 80s show, but those basic personalities are still there in the 2003 show, if I remember correctly.
Also, Krang, is your main role in this game just to look sad every time we beat up your henchmen?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I mean, again, it is some irony, that despite how much Laird hated the 80s show, even he wasn't immune to taking inspiration from it.
I guess it's one of those things where the 80s show became so ingrained in popular culture that it just became inescapable. Because remember, a lot of people who didn't grow up during that time don't remember, but the Turtles Mania in the late 80s, early 90s was just as strong as Pokemon Mania in the late 90s, early 2000s. A lot of people tend to forget that, but it was really that big.
Just the character, depressed Krang.
You know what that means? They're essentially the equivalent to what Shrek was in the early 2000s, where I kid you not, Shrek was so popular they were making food green for him.
The same thing with the turtles, Jova. Like, there were turtle cereal. It tasted like crap, but it had the turtles in it, so we had to buy it still. So.
Seriously, what is Krang's deal in this game? Like, he just seems to constantly be losing.
Basically,
he's just done with everything.
The basic idea, Joe, is that he's trying to reconstruct his main body as well as go forward with his Statue of Liberty plan. That doesn't. It's just an excuse for the gameplay. Obviously, much like all the older games, the plot is the plot is basically just an afterthought. Again, this is a true blue arcade game where it's just here for the gameplay and the presentation, and the story is just there as an excuse for the gameplay, basically.
On the topic of 80s Turtles, IDW recently made the 80s comics of the TMNT show, like based off the 80s continuity. So it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. We're doing. Yeah, you can tell that TMNT is their biggest IP.
Yeah, it was done by the same by the usual IDW writer. I forgot his name.
No, different team.
Okay.
TMNT got a major boost thanks to that Batman crossover, so I'm not too surprised. And gee, what a shock! Despite it being violent, the crossover was also based on the 80s versions of the Turtles.
It's one of those.
Wait, which crossover?
The Batman and TMNT one.
No,
actually, it wasn't. It
wasn't based off the 80s.
Wasn't it based like on the IDW versions of them, Dej?
No, it was just its own thing.
Oh, its own thing. Okay.
Well, the first one was its own thing. The second crossover that they had was crossover between Batman the Animated Series and the 2012 show.
Okay.
And then they did a third crossover that was based off the first crossover continuity.
I am talking about the original animated movie, which clearly is the 80s version, since that's Shredder's design from it, and they have the mentality of it.
It's not, no.
It's not. Sorry, Jova. Me and Dej actually saw it last year. So, but okay.
So you basically, essentially, they use the designs from the '80s show, but it's not the '80s show.
Just take the L.
Well, okay. It's one of those things, Jova, where they're their own original take on the. They're not based on a specific iteration, but yeah, they might take some cues from maybe the '80s in terms of the designs, I guess. But they're not the same characters from the '80s show.
Yeah.
Again, one could be forgiven for mistaking that since they have the same designs, but moving on. This time we're doing with the Rat King, who ironically is using the Mousers against us.
Which is Baxter Stockman's thing.
It is. Well, that's the thing. Well, that's the thing that the old games did this too. And remember that a lot of the times we fight Baxter in the sewers in the old games.
Oh yeah, Baxter was the one who created this Mousers.
Yeah, I know.
I was telling Jova that.
Oh, right. Oh, and look at that. The rats. The rats are also hiding Krang's head. So that's pretty funny.
Yeah, like I know Baxter's the one who made the Mousers. I just find it weird that we're fighting Mousers in. Again, assuming I'm right about what that sprite shadow was for the stomach for the game, I assume we're fighting the Rat King in this stage.
And yeah, one of our collectibles is the toads. So try to save them all.
The punk frogs, actually.
Say punk frog, sorry.
I forget, did TMNT ever get a crossover with Battletoads?
Surprisingly, no.
Surprisingly, no. Huh.
Wow, that really is a surprise, honestly. Like, you know, Battletoads was an obvious prestige to them. They were both relatively big, although TMNT's fame lasted longer than Battletoads. But, you know, there was a window in time when they were both the bee's knees.
So, yeah, I guess Battletoads was Britain's answer to TMNT.
Yeah.
I guess you could say Battletoads croaked.
One thing I haven't mentioned is the high five system. Basically, whenever you're doing a taunt near your co-op partner, you can actually high five the guy or girl if you're playing as April, and you can actually transfer some of your health to the other player. So basically, if a player is low on health and you don't have any pieces lying around, you can actually try to offer some of your health to your co-op partner.
What a nifty feature.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I gotta say, between this game and
there he is.
You are.
I am the Rat King.
Rat King, Rumbling Rodent Regent. So there you go. See, as you can see, 80s Rat King is a nod to the Pied Piper.
Yeah. I gotta say, between this game and Nick All-Stars Brawl, April O'Neil is surprisingly a pretty good fighter.
Oh no, like this fighter, like this particular beat 'em up, this is a stellar. Like even if you take away, like even if you want, let me give you an idea. My brother is at best a casual sympathizer of this franchise, but he loves the hell out of this game. Bought a copy for his own, simply because it's just that amazing of a beat 'em up. Like you don't need to be a TMNT fan to enjoy this. Like if you love scrolling beat 'em ups, you'll love this game. It's that simple because it's just so goddamn fun.
I played this with my nieces and my brother. Like I bought the Switch version because I only had one PS5 controller. It's like, fine.
All right.
I had to buy it immediately, and we all played it and got up to this level, and everyone was having fun.
Remember the good old days when consoles used to come with more than just one controller?
I do.
You mean 1991?
I bought my.
I mean, even the PS2 arguably.
Jova, I can do you one better. I bought my Mega Drive back in 1991, if I remember correctly, or was it in 1990? I forgot the exact year. The point is, in the early 90s, it came with 2 controllers, 4 games, one of them Sonic 1. Just to give you an idea of how much better console bundles were back in those days.
This is April O'Neil reporting to let you know that they're getting away and we're in pursuit.
Can you even imagine?
Do something about it.
Can you even imagine nowadays a first-party company releasing a console bundle that has 4 games and 2 controllers?
Well,
Imagine.
actually, the Switch, technically, the Joy-Cons are considered to be 2 now.
Imagine a PS5 controller that comes with Ratchet and Clank ripped apart and 2 controllers.
How can I? Because the way you worded it over, you made it sound like the game was actually inside the controls.
How would you even?
That's like one.
Maybe when we get to the PS9, they'll figure it out.
Episode 6, Mall Meltdown.
You're saying, Pedro?
That's like if I remember correctly, there's a bootleg console that works like that. If I remember correctly, where the games are on the controller apparently, or the very least you put the card with the games in the controller, or something along those lines. All right, carrying on.
People don't know when to give up.
No, they do not.
You know, good timing since we recently have gotten the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which I hear is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I
who
do
here has seen
wish
it?
there was a way I can buy a console version of this digitally to give to someone outside of Steam.
Yeah. Well, there is a way around there. It's like you can just buy a PSN or Switch eShop card that gives you the money they need to buy the game. Yeah. Here, I'm gonna give you this game, so here's X bucks, buy the game. I mean, it's not as clean as just Steam giving, but it still works, in my opinion. Awesome, love how that Foot Soldier is in the sushi stand. Alright.
So, you know, I honestly do have to wonder, were it not for the 80s show, do you think the franchise would have gone on to become as popular as it is now, or might it have faded into obscurity?
Look, it's like with Pokemon in the anime. Like the games only started really selling all those bajillion units when the anime came out, because the games came first, but they didn't explode until the anime came about. It was actually the same thing with Yokai Watch in Japan. When Yokai Watch came out in 2013 in Japan, a year before the anime, it sold only mildly. But then when the anime came out, it's a common thing with these cross-media franchises. The anime basically serves there to get the word out and shit like that.
I gotta say,
not to mention TMNT is also extremely merchandise driven. So
yeah,
I gotta say, like, it's interesting thinking back to a time when Pokemon wasn't the highest grossing franchise of all time, because holy cow.
Before Pokemon, if I remember correctly, TMNT.
Power Rangers?
I mean, was Power Rangers really did Power Rangers really surpass 80s Turtles in such a short time in terms of profitability?
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Power Rangers is big, but 80s TMNT big?
You also got to realize that Power Rangers' hugeness was mostly in America, not TMNT was a worldwide.
Yeah, that's another thing that Edge is also mentioning. Yeah, Power Rangers was popular over here. I did watch it as a kid, after all. But TMNT was literally like everywhere, like 80s like worldwide phenomenon. Like again, Pokemon. It was literally the Pokemon of its time.
Yeah, I'm checking the highest grossing media franchise of all time. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is ranked above Super Sentai / Power Rangers.
Makes sense, because like we've said, for as popular as Power Rangers is, you have to understand, back in the late 80s, early 90s, you have to understand, you could not go anywhere without seeing the Turtles plastered on some kind of product.
And thanks to their recent resurgence, they're back to being maybe not on the tippity top, but they definitely have enough of a name themselves. Like, well, that's the reason why we're still getting all these shows and movies, despite some varying quality here and there.
It's also it's also because this franchise has a very easy to grasp appeal to it, in my opinion, because it's 4 turtles, 4 brothers. They all have very distinct and very identifiable personalities that kids can very easily identify. Oh, hey, Shredder.
And they're teenagers, yo.
Yep. Aha, there she is. Tempestra, the Dame of Games. This was the villain from a specific game. Get this. This was one of the more bizarre ideas they've had for an episode for this show, where Leo gets addicted to video games.
Yeah, the 80s show had all sorts of ideas.
Well, like, when you go on for 10 seasons, you pretty much do everything. But yeah, Tempestra was the villain who got 80s Leo addicted to video games in the arcade.
Did she also have a magic ring?
It's been a while, but I don't think so.
Okay, probably it was a different villain. I'm thinking of the episode where Lotus Blossom was there.
Okay. Hey, look, it's Toka. Hey, look, guys, it's Toka and Razor.
Babies. They're babies.
But
Did they appear in the show, or were they only in a movie?
no. The Toka and Razor were premiered in the second movie. They were never in the show at all.
So, did Tempestra show up in any other games?
Toka and Razor, you mean?
No, Tempestra.
Oh, Tempestra. I don't think so, Dej.
Let me check.
Any other games?
I mean,
They were in Turtles in Time.
I don't think so. No.
Apparently...
God, man, guys, we're bad at this.
Okay, apparently she was an unlockable character in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Madness.
Oh, okay, that's one of the 2003 games, isn't it?
Guys, we've unlocked Will Arnett.
Actually, that game came out in 2020.
Oh, well, there you go then. Yeah, please get all my precious VHS tapes. They're important. Yeah, remember when VHS tapes were a thing? But,
Wait, where did Will Arnett play
What's a
this
VHS
guy?
tape?
Will Arnett, in
Michael Bay
the Michael Bay duology. Will Arnett plays
neat.
Vernon.
Yeah.
Also, youngin, VHS tapes are what we used before DVDs.
Exactly. Episode 7.
Yeah,
Roof
I
running
right.
reptiles.
DVDs are Blu-rays, but not tacky, youngin.
So what you're saying is they're worse in quality. Gotcha.
I mean, I joke, but seriously, some Blu-ray editions legit screwed stuff up. It was kind of insane.
I think, well, at least to me as a Brit, Blu-rays was such a were actually, because to me at least, I do consider Blu-rays to be such a step up from DVDs, and that there's no PAL speed up.
Okay. Okay, the thing is, you gotta understand, most of the world didn't have to deal with the godforsaken PAL frame rate, so we didn't know how much of an improvement that was for you guys.
Honestly, that's the thing though, Joe, that PAL as a format has been dead since 2012.
Foot cruiser. Oh.
PAL's been dead as a format since 2012. And we're still getting PAL speed up whenever the films are broadcast on TV.
I still don't even get why PAL was a thing.
Because a German guy thought it would be a good idea. He was wrong.
We have to go back in time and prevent them from doing this.
Oh, I would love to do that.
Pedro, France agreed with you and made their own version of PAL called CCAM.
Yeah.
What is that? Like, just basically, the equivalent to American frame rate?
It's PAL, but slightly different.
Because
France likes to stick out.
Yeah.
Why not just do
NTSC? Because trust me, Jova. We all of us in Europe, all basically just boil down to this. Like, yes, this is a thing. We're not quite entirely certain why this is a thing. We don't like it either. It's just like trust.
Again, round
Maybe.
here, it's been dead for 11 years since the analog switch over.
Maybe the guy who created it knew that in the future would come in handy for an obscure Pinocchio Disney game.
Yeah, that's because the Disney Pinocchio game was made by Virgin UK, which is why it was made with the PAL speed in mind from the get-go. Which is why when you play the American version of that game, the music sounds way too fast because again the game was made with the 50 hertz in mind.
And some parts of the game act too fast as well.
Alright, so since the game is getting DLC and adding other characters, what do you think is going to be in there? Because we have Musashi, I believe that's his name, the rabbit guy?
Yes.
I'm chalking my money to Lotus Blossom.
Wait,
It depends on...
You're talking about Yojimbo though, aren't you?
Yojimbo, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
I forgot.
Okay, are they potentially willing to take in characters from other universes since they're DLC characters?
Well, considering it's an interdimensional thing, that is a possibility. I mean,
In that case, I could see them maybe going for cross promotion and taking like in maybe Superfly from the new movie.
Probably, like if they're not going to,
as a playable character.
yeah, if they're going to do some kind of cross promotion, probably will be then for the new movie, most likely.
I could see them also doing 2003 because, yeah, while it doesn't get the most attention, 2003 does seem to be one with a massive fan base. Like, okay, 2003 is, in a sense, considered one of the most unique takes on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the sense of what it does with the Shredder, what it does with a lot of the characters, while also being, you know, a good contrast to the 80s series.
From what I can tell, from what I could tell, it's a middle ground between the 80s show and the original comics. Like, and it's more faithful to the comics in general in terms of its storyline.
In terms of playable characters, I could see them bringing in 2003 Leatherhead. He went on to become a good guy.
All right. Well, they are. Well, Joe. But here's the thing about the Turtles being all that profitable. They are the world's most fearsome fighting team, after all. I mean, I know this is just like nobody. I know this is like no duh, but like the TMNT 80s theme is still to me one of the all-time great cartoon themes because it's just like it's full of so many quotable verses that it's ridiculous.
It really is. It's that perfect mixture of incredibly catchy, but actually has the depth to, you know, back itself up.
Well, like most of the 80s themes at the time, like it introduces you to the characters very quickly. Leonardo leads, Donatello does machines, Raphael is cool but rude, Michelangelo is a party dude. So again, so a lot of those 80s themes always did a good job in introducing the, you know, summing up what the characters are all about, basically.
Although I'll admit, the one that's most stuck in my head is the 2003 theme. Since
oh sure, yeah. Oh sure, obviously.
Which, you know, again, even that one, darker as it is, feels like it takes some cues from the 80s show.
You know what's interesting about hold on, exactly. Hey, Dej.
Yep.
Cowabunga?
Cowabunga. Yeah, what they said.
Exactly. After them.
Ha! Wow, the turtles really are bad at this. We keep getting away while their backs are turned.
You've completed Irma's special request.
Well done.
Alright, let's check that out then.
Also, why does it look like the top of their car has its mouth wide open agape?
Oh, wow, you got points!
Experience points, Jova. It levels up the turtles.
Okay. Experience points, because for a moment I thought, wow, did they actually do that cheeky arcade thing with the points?
Surprisingly, well, you can still kind of try to gain them in the same way you would gain points if you're up for that sort of thing, I guess.
You know what I mean, though. It would have been so funny if, like, legit it was just, oh, it adds points to your high score.
No, I don't think this game has leaderboards, does it? I'll have to look again. Alright, everybody, tune in next time where we do a flying stage.
See you then.
See ya.